I've provided you major military conflicts in the 20th century. Wait, let me just make sure. 20th century. Yeah, I almost that up. World War I, World War II, the most brutal wars that ever existed, where tens of millions of men were killed, died. Bad things happened to women too, but not to the extent that men were negatively impacted. When we're talking about, and we're talking about patriarchy here, you mentioned something about, well, crash test dummies, gender, and medical testing.
I did mention earlier that those were just surface level issues.
Right, but like I'm seeking like, okay, what would be like a significant grievance, right? And it's like, well, if the world is made for the benefit of men, is it though?
Well, patriarchy can also harm men. That patriarchy is part of why the draft is only men.
So you think if societies were, in terms of leadership positions, if they were occupied by women, there would be less warfare?
I don't know if that's exactly how that would happen. I feel like it depends on the individual themselves, not whether or not they're a boy or a girl.
Well, if I told you that there was a study of monarchs and they compared queens to kings, and they did this study, they actually found that queens were more war hungry than kings were, and queens were much more likely to wage war than their male counterparts.
I think that could be more for the reason that women felt that they had to establish themselves and that they were already
Well, hold on, the monarch?
Monarchs, yes.
You mean the
yes.
the top authority?
Okay, yes. Listen, because
they have to prove themselves?
Yes, because
you mean the queen? No queen or king has to prove themselves.
They do.
They have ultimate authority.
Off with his head.
They have ultimate authority, but they have advisors and they have people that can rebel against them.
Who's the French king who said, "L'état, c'est moi"?
Probably one of the Louis.
Henry VIII.
I think it was one of the Louis. L'état, I am the state.
Oh, that's Louis XVI. Yeah.
The state is me.
Yeah.
L'état, c'est moi. Yeah. Look, monarchs had substantial power.
Yeah, but I'm going to say that usually monarchs were men.
Wait, so you're saying the queens wanted to like impress the lads?
No, but I think that they had to be more aggressive.
It's always for the boys.
To be taken seriously, I think, by the general population, also like of their.
Yeah, because yes, a monarch has all the power, but really.
They didn't need to be taken seriously.
Well, okay, because really
maybe as a monarch.
They have to establish themselves so that there's not a rebellion.
In an age where the most important thing to every single person in the country was, am I going to be able to feed my family? They could care less. They could not care less what the position of the female monarch was.
Okay, so how about the advisors, the nobles that had all the money and influence? They would care.
Well,
they see a weak monarch, and they're gonna go somehow against that monarch. So
same with neighboring kingdoms, they would see a potentially weak
100%. I think it's definitely more complex than you're making it seem.
Regardless of male or female, it's generally the case that female leadership does not understand the innate drive for protection that men find natural. It's a natural feeling that men have, and women just don't.
If women are so caring and maternal, how can they not understand the protection? If they have this innate drive to protect their kids, how can they not understand the protection of people?
Well, it's the innate drive to nurture their children.
Yeah.
It's the father's innate drive to protect his family. Like if there is a armed shooter in your house, the man's the one who's going to go stop the conflict. He's the one who's like, I am obligated to protect my family.
But if the shooter were to turn to the kid, the mom would definitely step in front. I think it just happens to be more with the woman. It's not
her initial reaction. It's usually
because
flee.
She probably thinks, but it's because she thinks that she can't help as much. The man thinks that I'm the strongest one, so I'm obligated. I think that is what a man would think.
Well, when it comes to leadership positions, that's why women tend to be more aggressive. I can't say that's exactly why. I'm just theorizing right now.
I am too.
Yeah. So my theory is that women will tend to bash all other opposing forces because they feel a sense of like unable to protect themselves. So they are more likely to confront other people that are going to be against their position.
And so I guess my argument would be is they feel that they are unable to protect themselves because they feel that they have something to prove, and they feel like already at a disadvantage and like they're not being taken seriously. Which I think especially maybe right now, you know, a woman as president, would I think she would be as power hungry? And if she was, maybe that would disprove my theory. But I think right now there wouldn't be as much of a need. But in the time when women weren't allowed to vote, when they were not given, like,
what time was that?
During when there was monarchs. I'm not talking about the current monarchs, because
But what if I told you during that period where there was monarchs in most of Europe, actually men didn't have the right to vote?
No one voted.
Either.
Noblemen though, with their own property,
So, okay,
right?
Well, they didn't vote.
So like
They-
0.001% of men
Yeah, but
had the right to vote.
okay, but
So
that,
99% of men.
Men were the property owners. Men were the ones that had, like, I mean, okay,
But that's not a gender thing. That's a power thing.
Yeah.
yeah, but okay, well, you agree with me that men at that time had more power and more say than women, with owning property, with rights.
Yeah, they were
With their
they were
decisions.
the leaders.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
I don't.
I agree to that.
Well, hold on. Actually, I do have to provide a bit of pushback because this is an apex fallacy here. So I would argue that, for this patriarchy really only benefits men at the top. Your average man, which is the vast majority of men, or below average men, I would argue struggle more than their female counterparts.
Yeah.
With what?
A great
Life.
many things.
With what?
Life.
Life.
Great many things.
Like what?
It's not clear to me if you compare the average man to the average woman that he is substantially advantaged over her simply by virtue of his gender. In fact, we can do sort of almost the reverse of the apex fallacy, which is looking at what feminists tend to do is they look at, well, men have the best, most optimum positions, but you also fail to look at the counter side to that, which is while men do, I will admit, there is a greater proportion of men who occupy the most quote unquote desirable positions in society, or they have the most power in society, which is again a very small proportion of men. A much larger proportion of men, as compared to women, occupy the absolute worst positions in society. And you don't hear much about equality on that front. For example, the fact that 80% of homeless are men. If you walk down the street, actually, if you look out that window right there, and if you look outside, there's a homeless man in the rain. Well, he's covered, he's under an awning, but it's a homeless man. You walk past a homeless person, typically tends to be a man. There's a whole bunch of other things, for example, incarceration. Men are much more, crime is a different discussion.
I think you're confusing correlation with causation, because I think that yes, I honestly don't know if that's all completely true. I haven't done my own research on men being worse off than women in everything.
Wait, so are you saying that, well, when men occupy positions of power, that's some privilege that is just bestowed upon them and there's no merit to their achievement, but when there's a negative, some sort of negative life scenario for a man, well, that has nothing to do with his gender. But when there's a benefit, 100%
No,
has to do with his
I'm not
gender.
I'm not
When there's
saying-
a negative, absolutely no correlation.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't say anything about people or men about. Okay, hold on. Let's
go
go
ahead,
back.
Make your point.
Okay, so I didn't say that had nothing to do with gender. I just was going to say that it is for different reasons than you might say. Like, for example, men being worse off could be more due to mental health and their unwillingness to go get help, especially for homelessness, which is usually a lot of mental illness. I think women are going to be more inclined to get to go to therapy just because of stigma.
You think therapy is what's preventing men from not being homeless? Is that that's the solution to homelessness?
No, but that's one solution. I'm just saying that,
I don't think even
I think mental illness is a huge thing that is overlooked.
Therapy fixes that?
I think it can. I think therapy is really good, but
helps.
You think
100%.
You think mental illness that is substantial enough to result in a man being homeless is going to be resolved by therapy?
No. What I'm saying is that people with mental illnesses, before they get to the point of homelessness, should seek help because they can't manage their life on their own, which causes them to be homeless.
That's usually very severe mental illness as
Not
it relates
always,
to homelessness.
But, okay.
There's also drug use. I think there's a drug component
and that
to
also
this too.
relates to mental illness too. People, I would say that I've met a lot of...
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So what I'm saying is you can't equate it all to men somehow being at a disadvantage in society.
But hold on. So of all the positive life outcomes that allegedly disproportionately men are the beneficiaries of, well, that's evidence of sexism against women and the patriarchy. But when there's negative life circumstances or outcomes for men, well, hold on. No, that's men's fault. There's no discrimination towards men. There's nothing, that's your argument.